Hi everyone, welcome back to my floss tube. My name is Rachel, this is Lemonade Stitching, and today is my 2025 end of year WIP parade. Happy New Year everybody! Today is January 1st, 2026, so I thought what better day than to film my WIP parade, get going. I didn't film a November or December floss tube update, so I was like, whatever, we'll just start right back with my end of year WIP parade. So if you're new here, I thought I would take a second and introduce myself. So like I said, my name is Rachel. This is my floss tube where I share mostly about my cross stitch, but also other crafts like sewing, knitting. That's mainly it. I don't know, sometimes I get up to some other stuff or do some crafty vlogs or something like that, but mainly cross stitch. I am 26 years old. I live in Lexington, Kentucky with my husband Graham and our two cats, Sybil and Lucy. I just got married in October of 2025, so that was like a whole era, you know, fiance, pre-wedding, whatever, and now I'm officially married and don't have to plan any more things, which is great. But anyway, like I just mentioned, I do like to knit. I took that up again this year, this fall, kind of got back into it. Took over my life for a couple of weeks or months. November and December, I was big into the knitting. I'm kind of taking a step back towards cross stitch right now, but I hope that knitting kind of stays with me this year. In fall of 2024, I got back into knitting, or yeah, I guess back into knitting from when I was 10, I guess. But then I didn't knit at all from like January 2025 until September. So I'm hoping this year I can find a better balance between cross stitch and knitting and kind of keep up with knitting a little bit. What else? I recently started baking sourdough. I got some starter from a cousin at Thanksgiving. So I think I've made about 4 or 5 successful loaves now. Only like 4 failure loaves, whatever. Also like knitting, this is not my first time trying sourdough. A couple years ago I tried it lasted like a week and a half. Lost interest, didn't touch it for a year, but having a established starter this time around has made it much easier than rather trying to like make the starter myself. So anyway, knitting, sourdough, cross stitch is my first love, and my main passion. Reading, I don't do a lot of physical reading, like physical books or Kindle books even, just because I'd rather be stitching, but my obsession this past year has been the Frida McFadden books. I love a good like thriller, mystery, edge of your seat, trying to like guess who's done it. I don't know if Frida is considered a whodunit, but like just a murder mystery, and she's always got some sort of twist, and I've listened to enough of her books now. I try to guess who it is, and she still gets me. I still can't pinpoint who she's gonna flip around and make the murderer. So anyway, I'm very excited to see The Housemaid now that that's out in theaters. But anyway, so that's that on books. And then as far as like movies and TV shows, I am a big watch something over and over and over again kind of person. So my go-to comfort shows are like Downton Abbey, Friends. It used to be Grey's Anatomy, but I haven't watched Grey's Anatomy in years, so I can't even say that anymore. And now with my husband, we've been watching a lot of The West Wing, Game of Thrones, and House of the Dragon. We're really excited for the new Night of the Seven Kingdoms, I think, is the new like Game of Thrones spinoff. What else? Fallout, we're rewatching Fallout because season 2 just came out. And he loves to play video games and likes playing Fallout, so he kind of got me hooked on the TV series that goes along with it. And then I also just love like older TV shows like Frasier and Cheers, and just, you know, your old classic rom-coms. I love a movie made before 2005, really. Those are like what I watch mostly. I just rewatch the same things over and over again. So that's a little about that. I don't think I have anything else to share as of right now. I don't know. I hate introducing myself. I hate trying to think of things about myself. I like to cross stitch. That can usually be my like fun fact when I introduce myself, but obviously here you probably like to cross stitch too, so we're looking for other things. Anyway, that's enough about me. I'm gonna get into my WIPs. I've got some notes not as many as I probably should have made, especially considering I haven't done a floss tube in 2 months, so I'm kind of out of practice with a lot of these and their details. But I can tell you that I have 15 WIPs that I ended 2025 with, and of those 15, only 3 of them are like from before 2025. So 12 out of these 15 were all started last year. 3 of them were older. I think 2 were 2024 and 1 was, nope, all 3 were 2024. I don't have any 2023 WIPs, which is awesome. So let's get into it. I'm going to start with my newest WIPs first and work backwards. I know a lot of people do it the other way. I usually do it the other way too, but as I've mentioned, I did not film a regular floss tube update at the end of November or December, so I have several Christmassy WIPs that nobody has seen yet. And while we're still in the Christmas season, I don't know if you're watching this during Christmas, but we're still kind of in the Christmas season, so I want to start with those and then we'll work backwards. And then I do also have, I made like information graphics with the cover photo of everything, the name, the fabric that I'm using, all that kind of stuff. So if you're interested, as I'm introducing the piece, just kind of look up and you can see it or screenshot it or whatever you need to do. I've did that for my mid-year WIP parade. People really liked it, and it was way easier than having to manage not only all my projects, but then also all of my cover photos and stuff. So I just have those graphics, so look up as I introduce everything if you want to see what the project is. So the first WIP I'm going to tell you about is Winter Moon by Plum Street Samplers. This project I started on December 21st of 2025, which was the first day of winter. And I started this kind of with Helen D. She talked about it in one of her floss tubes that she was starting it on the first day of winter, and this has been on my wish list for a couple of years. So I was like, yep, jumping on that. So Winter Moon, I am currently, oh, I don't have a percentage for this one because I'm just working off the paper chart. I didn't bother re-charting it or anything. And I'm stitching it completely as called for with the called for fabric that I didn't put in Notion. So I know it's on the screen. I think it's Salt Bush by Fox and Rabbit, 36 count. This is an overview of my piece, and then I'll get close up for you so you can see where I was working. So I haven't taken pictures yet, so I'm trying not to fold these too much, but I did a lower bottom left-hand corner start, and this is my progress so far. So I started with the fence down here, and then I filled in one of the quilting squares and then worked my way up with the fox and the tree. This tree is absolutely massive, so I had to take a break. There's a lot of fill-in on this project, especially like this white quilting stuff goes all the way across. All the trees are huge, so I'm gonna have to be doing some like back and forth between the massive fill-in sections in order to not get burnt out on this, I think. But so far I'm really enjoying it. Like I said, I'm using all the called for colors, and that's really all there is to say about this since I'm not changing anything. One thing I will say about this is, if you can see, I have like a random piece of thread going up the middle of the tree, and the way I'm stitching this tree is I'm kind of stitching in triangles, like on the diagonal, and that's kind of to help with the variegation. Well, I guess, yeah, to help with the variegation. It's not a super variegated floss, so I honestly don't even think you can tell, rather than like stitching straight across. But I figured if you could see the variegation, it would look more like branches. And also just with like stitching through all these white spots, I didn't want the tension to be weird. These are gonna end up being like a string of lights and some snowflakes. So I did the diagonal to help with the tension. And the reason I have the thread there is just to kind of help myself keep track of the middle and kind of keep pace with where I am on the chart. A couple, like every so often you'll run into like that middle stitch is an empty stitch because it's going to be the lights or a snowflake. And so having that thread there just kind of helps my brain keep on track and see where I am. So I just thought I'd throw that in there as a little tip if you're doing something similar, just adding a piece of waist thread to kind of keep your place. And I just did like a, I don't know, what is that? Like a running stitch? It's just like 5 stitches tall or something like that. So that is Winter Moon so far. I don't know exactly how big it's going to be on this fat quarter. And I was traveling the day that I started this. So rather than cutting it and doing a lot of measuring and all the stuff, I know it'll be more than big enough. So I just did my 3-inch margin from the bottom corner, started it, and then I'll cut it once I figure out how tall and how wide it's going to be. So that is Winter Moon by Plum Street Samplers. Okay, WIP number 2 is We Santa 2022 by Heart and Hand. This is another one that's been on my wish list for quite some time, and I got the pattern from my friend Cam at Cam the Stitcher during StitchCon, I think. It was when she brought it for the freebie table, and I snatched it up. And I started this on December 17th, and I'm using some of the called for colors and then also pulling from stash. So this is stitched 2/2 on 32 count cookie dough by Needle Bling, I think it's Needle Bling Designs. And I'm using the called for pinks. So like this reddish pink, the medium pink, and then there's another pink like in here on his coat and around his face. Those 3 pinks I decided to use the called for just because they're like the focal point of the piece. I also thought they'd look more like the cover photo. The cover photo is, I feel like it's more of a orangey pink, and that's just the way it photographed, versus these are like pink. I don't know how to explain it, but anyway, I didn't have anything perfect in stash to pull, and I was really going for the cover. It wasn't until I got more of the coat in that I realized these colors don't actually match the cover that well, but I'm in it now. So I'm using the 3 called for pinkish reds, and then the rest of the colors for like the branch and stuff, I'm just pulling from stash. I think it ended up being like 2 greens, 2 browns, and white. So really easy conversion to make. And yeah, I'm really liking this so far. And this is gonna get put away until Christmas in July stitching. This is another one I'm stitching off the paper pattern, so I do not have a percentage, but it's so small. Again, I just didn't feel like recharting it. WIP number 3 is Early Christmas Morning by Blackbird Designs. This is gonna end up being a little like pin cushion drum-esque situation, like a very short drum. And so it's kind of a 2-in-1 because I have to stitch the side band and the top. But I am stitching this 1/1 on 40 count Winter Brew by R&R. And this is actually the called for fabric, just in 40 count instead of 36. And again, I'm using all the called for colors on this one. I just love Blackbird and I love the cover photo. And so I was like, whatever, I'll just kit it up. So this again, overview of my fabric. The modeling on this is weird. I don't love it. I don't remember it looking like this when I bought it. But also I bought it for a different project, and this is just the second half of it, so it could have looked like this and I just didn't notice, so whatever. But let me bring it closer in, put it on my board so it's easier to see. But this is the side band here. It's gonna say Merry Christmas like 2 or 3 times to go all the way around. This is where I've put most of my effort so far, and it is actually where I started. And then this other corner over here is gonna end up being the top of the drum, but I haven't done too much on this. I was missing some of the colors that would have made it easiest to start. Like I was gonna start with some of the leaves, and then all like the first several leaves were in the color that of course my LNS was out of. And then I was like, okay, I'll start with the branch. And then that was the second color that my LNS is out of. So it was like a whole thing. But anyway, I started with the side band because this is a fat 1/8 of fabric. Like I said, it's left over from another project, and I wasn't sure that it was gonna be big enough. It's like just barely big enough. As you can see by my margins, they're minimal. So it's hardly big enough. So I wanted to make sure that I was like measuring it correctly and just would have room for everything. So okay, yeah, this will work. Sorry, I just had like a little moment. This is the left corner of the top, so it'll go into the middle. This will be all margin over here, pretty much. But anyway, this is how I started it, just to make sure I would have enough fabric. and it is 16% so far. That's including all the stitches from the side band and the top. I'm just counting them as one WIP, even though they're two separate charts. So let me show you the side band again, because that is the part with actual progress on it. So cute. It's very like brown and pink with a little green. So hopefully next Christmas, 2026, this will be a pin cushion. WIP number 4 and the other half of that 40 count winter brew is Santa Stops Here by With Thy Needle and Thread. I am obsessed with this chart. It is another one that was on my wish list for so long. I started this on November 7th and I am currently 45% complete. I partially kitted this up last Christmas of 2024. I didn't realize there's a hanging thread on here. I tried to get rid of all the hanging threads so that nobody would have to look at them. Whatever. We're just gonna have to put up with this one. Anyway, I partially kitted this up in Christmas of 2024 when I was at Hobby House. That's where I got the fabric and I got several of the overdyes. And then this year, all I had to do was get like 1 or 2 that they were out of stock of and the DMCs. So this was my focus in November. I am obsessed with it. It looks fantastic. And this is it so far. So I've got the whole border done and it was so fun. It was even the whole way around. It never changed except the corners, you know, you just had to know where to stop. So that was wonderful and made it really easy to do. I actually started with the house and got that done because I knew it was such, like it was so big that if I saved it for the end, that was gonna suck. So I did a center start and just kind of worked my way through the house. And then once I got sick of doing the house, I worked on the border and just kind of bounced back and forth a little bit until I was done with both of those. So now all that I need to do on the house, let me bring you in closer. All I need to do on the house is fill in the grout and do the roof. And then, you know, the rest of the project too. But like I said, I'm 45% complete on this, so almost halfway. There's only 6,400 stitches left, so hopefully this will be a finish in 2026. That's it for my Christmas projects. The rest of these have all been seen on the channel before and they are not Christmas themed. So if Christmas isn't your vibe or if you're over it, I promise we're done. So the next WIP is Pizza Slice by Mill Hill. I don't have a percent on this one because again, I'm just working off the paper chart. I have not recharted this and tracked all the stitches, but I started it on October 22nd during my honeymoon, and this is as far as I've gotten. The thing that's holding me back on this is I want to change the colors. It's currently a slice of, pepperoni pizza. That's how it's charted, but I want to make it a white pizza with sausage. So I just haven't been in the mindset to play with the colors and stuff. So this is as far as we've gotten and I haven't picked it up probably since the honeymoon. And this is just stitched on the kit, probably 14 count perforated paper. Some of the kit floss so far, and then I'll switch out some just regular DMC and other Mill Hill beads in different colors when we get there. WIP number 6 is Harvest Tiny Town by Heart and Hand. This project I am 19% complete. I started it on September 21st of 2025, and this was started during the Harvest Moon Hangout event. I know Maddie from Kitty Stitch started it, and I think Cam started it as well from Cam the Stitcher, but don't quote me on that. Both the Jingle Ball and the Harvest Moon Hangout, I was kind of sick and wasn't very social during them, so I know they started it, but I didn't really talk to them. I was just kind of being antisocial and lurking a little and just kind of not getting on very much at all except to shop. But anyway, here is my Harvest Tiny Town. Again, I like to do a big picture and then we'll get close up. So I did a center start on this. I've done one house and one tree. And again, that's as far as we've gotten. I am stitching this with the called for DMCs, and I'm stitching it on 40 count flax. So next fall I'll get back to this, but I'm not in a rush. It was hard to stitch when I wasn't in like the mindset to really, like since I was sick, I just wasn't in the mindset to be stitching, and so stitching on 40 count, it just didn't get much progress, obviously. So pretty sad start on that one, but that's okay. What did I say? 19%. It's such a small chart that even that little bit is still a fifth of the pattern, so not too terrible. Could be like 1%. Okay, next WIP. This is my birthday start from 2025, and it is Elizabeth Scorah by My Sister Samplers. I am 26% complete with this project. I started it on August 5th, which is my birthday, and I'm stitching it on 40 count one more reproduction linen by Bestitch Me with the called for Gloriana silks. A lot of my WIPs have the called for colors. I didn't even realize that when I was getting ready. But this chart I got at StitchCon last year, and I got the silk pack with my friends Bridget, the museum stitcher, and from Cam the Stitcher. They have not started it yet, just with everything they've been working on, but I went ahead and got started on mine because I loved it so much and wanted it to be my birthday start. So this is my progress. Again, this is actually only half the linen. It's a full fat quarter of fabric. I don't know if it's the full length, but it's absolutely the full width. So this is what we're working with as far as the fabric goes, but let me get you close up again so you can see the stitching. It's absolutely stunning. The silks are great. The variegation is great. The alphabet was super fun, and I'm loving it so far. I'm excited to get back to this. The only change I guess I will be making, kinda, is this part here. This basically says Tesla. I say Tesla in my head every time I see these letters. This is 1/1, this verse here, and I'm stitching it actually with Tudor silk instead of the Glorianas. I was able to get some Tudor silk from, oh shoot, where did I order that from? It's that place in Portland. I don't remember. If you really need to find some Tudor silk, message me and I'll remember the name and figure it out. But anyway, it's India ink. It's the same color black, but it's just the finer silk, which makes the 1/1 on this 40 count way easier. So yeah, that is Elizabeth Scorah. I love her. I probably will keep her out and work on her at the beginning of this year because she's just so pretty. And she's not summery. Like, she's very, to me, she's very autumn colored, like with the gold and green and black. So I feel like that can be carried into winter. Also, it doesn't matter. It's my stitching. I don't need to justify it. I am a pretty seasonal stitcher, and I tend to focus on projects for about a month at a time before switching them out. So sometimes I fall into that, like, oh, I can't work on it now or whatever, but whatever makes you happy and how you're stitching, that's all that matters. Okay, I've officially lost count of how many WIPs we have, but the next one is going to be Summer's Day by Jacque Stitch. This was a start at the Midsummer Stitch event hosted by Lindy Stitches. I am 39% complete. This was exclusive to that event, and I started it on July 21st. And again, I'm stitching it on the called for fabric with the called for floss. If you watch Jessica from Jacque Stitch, she does a lot of like sneak peeks and stuff in her cross stitch vlogs that she posts on FlossTube. I love watching her videos, and she had been teasing this one for a while, so we knew what the fabric was gonna be. So I'm pretty sure I ordered this ahead of time so that I had it and like made sure I could get my hands on it. It's Dolomite by Fiber on a Whim. Don't remember if I said that. But then I ordered something else during Midsummer Stitch, so I was like, well, I'll just order the thread pack from Lindy Stitches and whatever. So I probably started this right after the event. I don't remember. July was a long time ago. You can watch my July floss tube if you're curious. If you want to know exactly how it fell within the event. But I can tell you the date was July 21st, 39% complete, and this is what it's looking like. That was a lot of information just to show you this. Apologies. And I did bring a board, but I keep forgetting. It's also not big enough for several of my projects, so whatever. But here is what she looks like. I'll do a little pan. I added in my initial already. I think I did a center start on this, and it is fun. I was just having a hard time stitching on this fabric. 40 count and I were just not vibing over the summer. I don't know exactly why, but I just remember not super enjoying the stitching of this, which is why I didn't get more progress on it. But I'm excited to get back to it when it warms up in like June. It just needs time out for a little longer, and then I'll get back to it. But yeah, that is Summer's Day. And I know several people have finished that already, and it's stunning. I love the chart. I don't know, physically stitching on it just wasn't meshing with me. The next WIP is a Birds sampler by Brenda Keyes. This is actually from a book. Of course, I didn't write down the name of the book or bring it up here, but this project, I do have a photo of the picture of it. And again, if you really need to know the book that it's in because you like it, just send me a message, leave me a comment, and I'll figure that out for you. But this project I actually adopted from Megan, the Seattle Stitcher. She was destashing several things, and so I claimed this one. And I haven't actually put any stitches in on it yet, so I don't have to count it as a WIP, but I like to. I think I actually frogged some stitches, so it's actually even less progress than it was when I got it from her. But I did rechart this so that I didn't have to work out of the book. And when I was marking off the stitches in Markup RXP, I found like one little counting mistake. So I frogged those and got it to a place that it was like ready to stitch. I just haven't put stitches in on it. So anyway, this I officially adopted on June 12th. So I'm counting it as its start date. And it is 15% complete. It's stitched 2/2 on 36 count bramble, and I think again it has just all the called for colors. So this is the fabric. It's a beautiful purple, and it's got like, I don't know, like I think grayish, maybe slight greenish grayish modeling on it. And Megan started up at the top, and we've just started working down one side. And again, I haven't stitched on this yet. I'm excited to pull it out and start stitching on it. I just haven't. I was gonna pull it out in September for Sampler September, but then I just got focused on other samplers. So it hasn't gotten much love yet, but this coming year, it certainly will. It's actually not even that big of a sampler, to be honest. It's only 6,500 stitches total. So it really isn't that big. And with the 2/2, it's like got nice big bold colors, easy to stitch with the loop start, so it shouldn't be too bad. Next up is Anna Funk by Erica Michaels. This one is currently sitting at 43% complete. I started it on June 12th of 2025, and it's stitched 2/2 on 32 count baby sheep. And this one does have a little story to go with it. So if you have never seen this chart before or heard me talk about it, basically this is a reproduction sampler that Erica Michaels did, and the original sampler was stitched by a young girl named Anna. I think her name was Anna, duh. Anyway, Anna was moving out of Germany or somewhere, and her friends, she had to say goodbye to her friends, obviously I think they were moving to America. And she asked each of her friends to design a little sampler motif for her that she ended up stitching into this friendship sampler that she made. And so when I read that, I was like, oh my gosh, that's the cutest thing I've ever heard. I want a friendship sampler. I also knew I wanted to change the colors in this. I just wasn't quite sure how. So what I ended up doing was I got a full color ring of really bright rainbow colors, and I asked all my friends at StitchCon and then some friends since then, different stitching friends, to choose a motif and choose some colors. So I'll put up a mock-up of all the colors that have been chosen so far. If you want to know how I'm doing this, I'll give you a quick rundown, but again, just reach out if you want more details about it. But basically, I put the PDF chart into markup. I think it's PDF chart. Or did I don't remember if I recharted this or if I scanned it, but either way, I got it into markup, and I basically made every single symbol the same gray color, and then I just played with the like symbol selection and selected, you know, as people gave me colors, I played with the symbol selection, added new colors in, and just did those little sections so that I could see in my preview what has been chosen already and what hasn't. And so with that, this is my progress. After all of that talking, this is where we're at. So this fabric gets so washed out, I think. Let me give you an overview. It's also super sheer, but it's like a light yellow in person. And so I'm just doing this on an 1/8. I left huge margins, probably could have gotten away with, well, I definitely could have gotten away with less, but whatever. I was feeling chaotic when I started this. So this is what we've got. So I want to try and see if I can remember who did what motifs. I'm pretty, because I haven't said it on yet on a video, like who chose what motifs. I was gonna do like a guessing game, but that's too much work. So I'm gonna try and remember off the top of my head who did them. I'm pretty sure, if we go around, I'm pretty sure it was Elizabeth from Frizzy Lizzy Stitches, Bridget the Museum Stitcher, I know Megan did one. I don't know if I've stitched Megan's yet. I might have had to do this one myself and it was making me upset. Yeah, I think I had to do these two. I think Cam did this one, Marjorie from Marjorie Maid did this one, Maddie from Kitty Stitch, and this one was actually a viewer. Oh my gosh. I know her Instagram name, but I don't remember her first name. By the way, I did a little like interactive thing on my YouTube on one of my floss tube updates, and I had people like comment suggestions, and then I randomly chose one and stitched that in. And then I have some other friends that have already chosen the motifs that go this way, just haven't stitched them. And I think Megan the Seattle Stitchers is like over on this right side of the sampler, so it hasn't been added yet, but it will in the spring when I get back to this, because these colors make it a very spring sampler. So that is how that's working out. And I don't have any rush on this one. I don't want to choose too many of the colors myself. I really want it to be like my stitching friends. Oh, you know what? Amity and Erin did one of these too, the Hathaway Stitchers. I think though that I haven't stitched theirs yet, if I remember correctly. Anyway, I don't want to choose too many of the colors myself because I really do want it to be a friendship sampler of the different like cross stitch friends that I make over the years. So I'm not in a rush to finish that. It's not on a timeline because I have to keep meeting people and making friends. The next WIP is Flowers of Rosehall by Rosewood Manor. This is at 34% and I started it on March 20th of 2025. This project, I'm saying that I am stitching it on 40 count Winter Moon, but I don't think that's right. But I also don't know what it would be if it's not Winter Moon. So we're just sticking with that. I ordered Winter Moon and I ordered something else, and this was one of those fabrics where like the sticker kept falling off of it and I wasn't like, it just, I don't know. But I know I'm stitching it 1/2. I think it's a 40 count. I just don't know if Winter Moon is the color that it is. It's definitely like a yellowish neutral, But I don't know, like winter moon, this doesn't look like winter moon to me. I don't know what winter moon looks like, but it doesn't look like what I envision when I say winter moon, if that makes sense. But anyway, that's a long way of saying here is my project. Let me fold this again. Here it is. So overview, I have found 3 of the 4 corners. And let me bring you in close. One thing I can tell you is that I'm using all the called for Baldaquin silks. And I really like how this is coming out. I hyper focused on it last spring and got a lot of progress in on it. And it's looking really cool. So I'm excited to finish this. I like how the silks are looking. And I actually got this on a D-stash. It was like 40 bucks for the pattern and the silk pack, and I snagged it immediately. So I think this might have been one of my first silk projects, or at least the first silk that I purchased. So that is Flowers of Rosehall. I'll bring you in at the top again because that's where the most work has been done. So pretty. And again, this is sitting at 34%, got about 5,500 stitches left. So I feel like most of my projects are sitting at about the 5,000 to 6,000 stitches left mark. And I keep being like, oh yeah, easy finish, easy finish. But when you add all that up, that's a lot of stitching. And I have things to start. You bet your bottom dollar I will be starting more things next year. Okay, my last WIP from 2025. This is Baldaquin Birdies by Modern Folk Embroidery. This was the 2025 stitch along, and I originally planned to finish it in 2025. Obviously, that didn't happen because it's in my WIP parade, but I started it on January 1st, and it is sitting at 59% complete. This one is not ironed because I was working on it last night for New Year's Eve 12 by 12. I made it my goal to get 1,200 stitches by 12 o'clock, midnight. Thankfully, I got 1,200 stitches by 8:30 and was able to go to bed because I'm a grandma and my bedtime is 9 o'clock. So anyway, this is what 60% looks like on Baldaquin Birdies. I love this project. It was in timeout for like 5 months just because, not because it did anything wrong, but just because I didn't want to work on it. But yeah, I'm stitching it on 40 count flax with Gentle Arts Witching Hour 1/2, which is like a brownish, like a dark brownish purple. And I wanted to make sure I picked a pretty neutral combination because I want this to be able to hang up in my house no matter how we've decorated. So I'll go back to the top again for you. And I'm trying to work down evenly. Like I don't want to get too far down on one side and not on the other. So last night, most of my focus was in this urn thing. But at some point this year, I did go around and finish the border. And if you're like, how did you count all that? I didn't. Don't freak out. I did not count. I just started stitching down the side. So like I just started each motif that, and I had already finished the top band, so I knew the full width of the project. So I just started stitching down the side, and I would just do enough to be able to like count these little parts. And then once I got to the bottom, I just filled in my border, started stitching across until the two sides met up. So that was my hack for that. And again, this is how we're looking. Last night when I was working on this, I actually finished one length of thread, and I use markup for this to track my progress. Finished one length of thread, and I was 2 stitches away from 1,200. I was at like 1198. And I was like, are you kidding? I have to start a whole new length of thread in order to hit my goal for the day. So I do have a hanging thread on the back here because I couldn't leave it at 1198. That was just, that would have been sad. Like I was so close. I think I'm on like my 4th or 5th skein of floss. I stopped keeping track, so I don't know for sure. But I'm over halfway. It still has it has less than 12,000 stitches remaining, 11,500. So that's less than 1,000 stitches a month. Hopefully we can get it done by the end of 2026. But again, whatever. We'll see. We'll see what else we get up to next year. Okay. My first 2024 WIP is Lovely Victorian Home. This is a Dimensions kit, and I started it on September 2nd, 2024. Again, I do not have a percent complete for this because I'm stitching off of the paper chart, but I do know I made a lot of progress this year. I'm stitching it with all the kit floss on the kit Ivory Ada, which is 14 count, and this is what it's looking like. So here's an overview of my piece. It looks so good. I am backstitching this as I go so that I don't have to try and do it later. I am obsessed with it, and it's stitched, since it's a Dimensions kit, it's stitched with a combination of half stitches and full stitches, as well as places with 4 strands and 2 strands, maybe even 1 strand, I don't know, and I just haven't gotten there yet. But I know there's a mix of textures and stuff in here. All the trees and the sky are half stitching, the water is half stitching, the house is obviously going to be full cross, but this is where I'm at with this. Again, this will get pulled out in the spring, and it's just stunning. So I'll pull it back so you can see it again, because with these kits you really have to look at them from afar in order to get like the full effect. So that is my Dimensions kit. Lovely Victorian Home. This one is out of print, so I had to buy it on eBay. I remember getting a pretty good deal on it, but I think this is one I had to watch for, because like some people will sell it really expensive and some people will not. But I feel like it was one that there were enough available that it wasn't super hard to find. All right, WIP number 14, I only know that because there's only one left and we have 15 WIPs, is Modern Pop Art Strawberry by Box & Fox. This is sitting at 51% complete. I started this June 2nd of 2024 for the Strawberry Moon Sale hosted by Marjorie Maid. And I'm stitching it 2/1 on 18 count white Aida. And I actually cropped this project. So, this is my progress. And as you saw in the cover photo, it's like, I don't know, like an 8.5 by 11 type size, like a long rectangle. But I am making it a square because I only work on this in June and it'll be around forever if I continue working at this pace. But it's just a fun little strawberry thing, and I think if I remember correctly it'll fit perfectly in like a 5x5 or a, well no, not a 5x5, maybe a 6x6 or an 8x8, something like a square frame. I should be easily able to get a frame at Michael's or Hobby Lobby and pop this in and pop it up on my gallery wall or turn it into a project bag or something. So this is my Modern Pop Art Strawberry. I really only work on this in June, which is why it's only 51% complete after 2 years almost, 2 iterations of the Sal. And I did update the stitch count to reflect the change. I don't remember what it was originally, but now it's 8,000, and so that 51% is accurate with the crop, if I remember correctly. But I also talk about that, I think, in my June or July update, I think. So you can check there if you're super interested. I don't think anybody is, but if you are, whatever. Okay, my 15th and final WIP is Jacque's View. This is an old leaflet by Barbara and Cheryl. I got this secondhand as well, so I'm not sure if it's something you can still get your hands on. But I am 60% complete with this. I started it on January 20th of 2024, and I'm stitching it with all the called for floss on 14 count easy grid Aida, and this is what it's looking like. This is all, because of the way it was printed on the leaflet, I was able to get it into markup pretty well which is why I'm able to get the stitch count on this. It was one of those old like hand-drawn charts, so it's definitely a labor of love to get it into markup, but I think it was worth it. I am loving it. I picked it out because it reminds me of my cat Sybil, because she's a tuxedo cat. And if you were around when I started this, you would know that I actually stitched these doors first. Since I was stitching it on this easy grid, I was pretty confident in my ability to count across without stitching this middle portion. And I stitched the doors first so that I wouldn't have to kit up all of the floss right away. And I only had to have like 10 colors on my ring instead of 70. So here is where I did most of the work this past year, right in this middle section. And you can actually see I started pulling out some of the grid fibers because I'm all done with, like, I'm fully done with these, what, like 30 stitches or something, 30 rows. So that is what she's looking like. Again, the grid makes it really easy to kind of jump around and do some like landmarks and work on other areas. So next time I pick this up, I'll just pick a chunk and work on that and then put it away for a bit and whatever. At one point that was going to be my full coverage Friday stitch, but I think that only lasted about 2 weeks and then I didn't want to do that anymore. But again, there's only 6,500 stitches remaining. That is like where all my projects for some reason have just stalled. Not on purpose, they just have all ended in like 5 to 6,500 range. I don't know. Well, that wraps up my 2025 end of year WIP parade. I don't have an exact stitch count to give you guys because so many of those are paper charts and whatnot. The last time I looked at my Notion, it was about 141,000 stitches, but I know that that's not accurate. So I'll just say at least 141,000 stitches in 2025, which is a crap ton, I know. But I was really happy with all the progress I got to have done last year and just grateful that I got the time to stitch on all these wonderful projects. It was definitely a balance with grad school and wedding and all the work, but I think it was a pretty good year overall. So I am going to be filming a 2025 finish parade right after this. So keep an eye out. If it's not up already when you're watching this WIP parade, it'll be up very soon. So check that out. There are some projects in there that have not yet been seen on my floss tube. Again, just because I didn't do those November or December floss tube updates. So I've got some Christmas finishes in there, and then also, you know, all the projects from like January, February. If you weren't subscribed, you may not have seen them. So be sure to check out that video. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching my WIP parade, and I'll see you in my next floss tube.